Welcome to the 73rd episode of the PRESSURECAST, the weekly video game news panic that posts every single Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, and America's longest running independent newspaper at expressmilwaukee.com, and powered by videogamesaredumb.com. My name is Colin Tanner, and I'm your host, as always, and I'm sure if you are a longtime listener, you noticed that there was absolutely no intro for this episode whatsoever, and that's intentional. Obviously, I just pointed it out. I'm not going to just bring up something for no reason. I'm not going to just talk about it and be like, oh, I didn't mean to. No, obviously I did. We're off the rails already. As you can tell, this is going to be a solo brolo. This is just going to be me talking to you. Some people are perfectly fine with these episodes. Some people don't like them. I read the iTunes reviews. Some people don't like them. If you don't like the solo brolos, please, you know what? Turn it off. Understand. No hard feelings. I'll see you next week. We'll have a normal episode. We'll have guests again. You might be saying, what happened to the guests? Well, everybody's pretty darn tired because me and Brandon went to the Midwest Gaming Classic, or as we began calling it as the days went on and the hours went on, the Midwest Classic Expo, or whatever, we named it all sorts of things. It was a long weekend. It started at 9 a.m. or even 8:30 a.m. at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and it just wrapped up about an hour ago. We stayed afterwards. Brandon was wiped. He was tired. He was like, I need sleep. I need rest. Absolutely. I'm going to be doing this show by myself, and I feel okay about that. I feel like I got a lot to talk about. We've got all the news. We got to be talking about DeNA having some layoffs. We have to talk about a ton of Microsoft news. Conquer is actually going to be coming later this month. We're going to get to that news. Don't worry about that. But first, I do want to talk about the Midwest Gaming Classic, which was just an incredible amount of fun. It just blew my mind. It was excellent. I went down there. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. It was very difficult to figure out who was going to be there. I tried using Twitter. I saw a lot of people were going there just for fun to observe things, but find out which developers were going to be there. Oh my God. It was a nightmare. I mean, they were very busy setting this whole thing up, and it shows. I mean, you go into the Midwest Gaming Classic. If you go into their arcade, you've just got like dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of classic arcade machines and pinball machines, ranging from the beginning of arcades and the beginning of pinball all the way up to this year. And it'll just blow your mind because it's all on free play. You know, you drop your $20 or whatever it is, then you have free access to all these amazing games. It blew me away. I mean, everybody was there. Actually, Brian, who used to be on the show back in 2014, he was there as well. Although all I could do was wave at him because I was in the middle of an interview, and But I'll shoot him a text later, so don't worry about that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people go there because they want to check out the old hardware. I mean, and it's definitely impressive. You get to check out the very first gaming consoles of all time, such as the Odyssey, and get to play a very weird version of Pong or Table Tennis for Two or whatever they called their version of it. And it's just magical. You get to pick up this old hardware, Famicoms and Super Famicoms. You get to play with CDIs. I saw some children playing Hotel Mario, and they liked it. So I guess maybe I'm too harsh of a critic. In case you don't know, Hotel Mario was the CDI game that was not made by Nintendo, and it's pretty awful. All you do is you close doors so that the Goombas don't get out. That's it. You close doors and you ride on an elevator. But man, they had some rare arcade cabinets there. The people from Galloping Ghost were there. We actually saw a working Primal Rage 2 machine. Yes, a real Primal Rage 2 machine in the basement. It was gorgeous. The game was confusing as hell. I didn't understand a lick of it. We saw an Elevator Action 2 machine. Yeah, Elevator Action 2. I didn't even know that existed. In case you don't know, the very first Elevator Action, it was kind of like a spy game where you just went down and you shot at people and you could shoot lights out. This was like the Streets of Rage 90s version of that. Tons of blood and guns and shooting dogs. It was buildings actually get demolished, and then you get in a Jeep and you drive away. And it was 2-player. Me and Brandon tried to play it. Couldn't understand a lick of what was going on. It was very difficult to line up the elevator. Actually crushed each other with the elevator over and over and over again. But that was a lot of fun. We got to see a warped machine. That was cool. Got to play the Grid, that Midway classic, the Grid, which you'll never see anywhere else. Can never be duplicated because it used certain types of hardware. It's almost like the Saturn of arcade machines. It'll never be perfectly emulated, and it uses like a trackball, and it's a shooter. That was a ton of fun. Literally saw, no exaggeration, we saw an actual Mortal Kombat 10 machine, which had weapons built into the side, and the man who made that machine, he looked like a madman in the absolute best way. It was the perfect person to build that cabinet, and he was playing it, so we got a good look at that. 5 Steel Battalion setups from the original Xbox, 5 of them, right next to each other. 5. Where else are you going to see that? I got a few pictures of that, and you know, we brought a camera along. So you're going to be seeing a ton of video content over at, youtube.com/games under pressure. I am now only 91 subscribers away from being able to change the name because obviously I'm no longer affiliated with that website. So please subscribe and you'll see a ton of video, because this wasn't just about classic games. Yeah, I didn't really interview a whole lot of people about classic games because there were a lot of indie developers there. You know, the latest buzzword, indie developers. Ooh. And these people were amazing. They were so generous with their time. They were excited. I'm a terrible interviewer, I would say. I guess the interviews are fine. Everyone else was like, no, it was great. But, you feel kind of self-conscious. But they just took my dumb questions and just went with them. They played along with my dumb jokes, which was absolutely incredible. One person that I did get to talk to about retro games was Jeff Lee. And you might be saying, Jeff Lee, that doesn't sound too familiar. Well, it should. Jeff Lee designed the incredible character that is Q*bert, who is beyond famous in terms of video games. One of the longest running characters, one of the most enduring characters. You actually see him in Wreck-It Ralph. And Jim Lee designed that Q*bert, that weird little thing, the indescribable Q*bert. The fuzzy little horn, trumpet, whatever you want to call him. And he was generous enough to come over and do a little bit of an interview. And we even got to talk about him digitizing the the Three Stooges, because he created the graphics on the Three Stooges. He was the designer of the graphics back in the day when games only required 3 people, which is funny. Because talking to him, I talked to him first. It was we started off the show on a really high note, talking to one of the most, influential people in video games, creating one of the very first mascots in video games, a game that I'm no good at. I tried to play Q*bert so often. I'm just no good at Q*bert. I've tried, And then moving on, we got a chance to meet all these independent developers with their small teams. And it was really interesting to see the parallel between the early days of the arcade and this new embrace of the independent developer. And I honestly think it's fascinating because people go, oh, look at their graphics. They're just trying to capitalize on nostalgia. But no, a lot of these people are they have a limited amount of people at their disposal. It takes people to create games. And so they go for something that they know, something that they can excel at. And the work is just really impressive. And one of the people I got a chance to meet was John Harwood. He was the creator of Demon Hearts, which is currently on Steam Greenlight. This was such an awesome game. You play as this vampire girl, and you can teleport through spikes and walls, and you're slashing away at enemies, and randomly it'll just have a timer countdown from 10 seconds, and you need to go and slash a heart and make it bleed and jump through a pipe. I don't know. It was just a really tight action platformer. It was just awesome. Really hard to describe, but I guess it would be almost kind of like a combination of the difficulty of like the 3D Shinobi games, but like in 2D, where it's a lot about platforming. What was really cool is it didn't have any wall jumping. I was really waiting for the wall jumping, but instead you have to do this kind of ghostly teleport bat control where you transform into a bat to avoid getting killed, and really have to time out your jumps. And I got to sit there and talk with John for a while. We got to do an interview with John. He was just so nice, and it was and then I played his game, which is challenging. It's not difficult, it's challenging. And it was very funny to be sitting there next to the creator of the game. And, if you watch the first hour, I'll be talking to myself the whole time going, what do I got to do over here? and saying that stuff out loud, because I'm used to talking to my games, and then looking over and there's the creator, and John would just give me a shrug. He wouldn't tell me, and he'd just say, think about it. And, I would figure it out eventually, because he actually did have excellent instructions in his game, a fantastic and very brief tutorial. So that was very kind of him, to tolerate a bunch of strangers walking in and making a mess of his wonderfully exciting and highly engaging game. I actually went back the next day and played it again just because I had to, and chatted him up for a while, and we talked about our love of Bayonetta. So John's a very cool person in my book. I was a absolute big fan. A lot of podcasts were out there. We got to see the Guys, Games, and Beer group at guysgamesandbeer.net. They also do the whole YouTube thing, so we got to vent our frustration about copyright claims and monetization. That was actually very cool. Got to meet other people that were actually out there filming the event. Got a chance to talk to Christian, who is a person that actually goes to a lot of expos and gets a lot of footage. Just really intelligent, very sharp, knew exactly what he was talking about. You can tell he's been doing it a long time. He said he's been going to expos nonstop for about 4 years. It shows. He was incredible. We actually got a chance to see the very first homebrew game. See, I'm a little tired right here. Sorry about that. The very first homebrew game, which I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was Roadkill. I don't know. It was for the NES. Some creator made a cartridge for it and then just gave up and just never finished their game. And it's the very first homebrew game. And some of the games, homebrew games, right? Homebrew games are just on cartridges that look like NES games, go for over $1,000. So homebrew collecting, I assumed it existed. I had no idea it was so competitive or so pricey. So that was actually very interesting. Thank you, Christian, for, I'm sure none of these people are going to be listening to the show, especially now. They're like, where's the guests? You got any guests? It's just you rambling? Christ, I heard enough of you during the interview. But of course, we had some other people. We met a guy named Frank, who worked on a game called Armed for Battle. And that was another NES homebrew game. He made an NES real-time strategy game. Yeah, it's as weird as it sounds. Just look up Armed for Battle. It was awesome. Very confusing. And once again, when I got stuck, I had to be like, what do I do? And he was the opposite. He's like, oh, just do this. He could tell I was struggling a bit. I was never any good at strategy games on the NES, but that game was absolutely fantastic. That was a load of fun. And we also got a chance to talk to a guy named William, who's working on a game called Fifth Son. And when he described the game, all these people, by the way, we all got interviews with them on video. So if you go on the YouTube, you're gonna be seeing these guys in the upcoming weeks. Very generous with their time, hoping the audio levels come out okay, but they were very generous with their time. So William was working on this game called Fifth Son. He's one of many people, and this game was very bizarre. It's the last of the Mayans fighting off the invading Spanish by using a circle of flames and just basically eliminating hundreds of people on the screen at once. And it was fascinating because I'd seen him Saturday and I'd played the game, and I came back and played the game a little bit more. And the next day he's like, "Oh, I made 2 changes overnight. I really want to fix this thing because of the feedback that I'm getting." I was like, "What, really?" Okay. So I played the game, and you could tell it was improved. There were a lot more enemies on the screen at once. And I went, "Okay, bye." And I came back an hour later, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I changed it again." I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, "Yeah, I adjusted the algorithm for the enemies so that they're a little bit more difficult and they'll gang up on you." He was saying something to the effect of like, "Oh, once you hit one enemy, it seems like they're running away from you." So he fixed that. And it was like, wow, okay. I've seen you over the course of less than 24 hours, and you've changed your game 4 times. And I sat there and played it, and you would notice the difference. It was incredible. Got a chance to meet some people from Scatcast. They introduced me to a game that was a combination of Pong and Pac-Man and Space Invaders, which I can't remember the name of. Maybe Puyo Pong, whatever it was called. It was absolutely fantastic. They also had a PlayStation 1 era WarioWare-esque game called Bishi something too. It was very, very strange. There were like mini games where you were a groom and a bride, and you had to make sure to charge up her attack to throw her bouquet into the church, but it wasn't a bouquet, it was actually a pie, and it would just hit someone in the face, and you had to see how far you could throw the pie. Incredibly strange game. They were excellent. They were just fantastic. And also got a chance to, probably my favorite game, if I'm being honest. Probably my favorite game was this game called Thunder Gun, which was just I don't know. Okay, this is a game that's going to sound really simplistic, and I'm really sorry about that. There's really no way to describe it except that it was like an action platformer. You were like an arena 2D action platformer where you had this gun that would charge up, and you couldn't like spam it. You actually had to wait for it to charge up, and you could choose the varying degrees of power, and then you would just launch this bolt of electricity, and it would hit one enemy, and it would create chain attacks. And you could even find Tesla coils, and if you wanted to do like a major attack, because sometimes you'd be swarmed by enemies, and the Tesla coil would automatically just shoot the lightning over and over and over again and kill everybody. It's my favorite game of the show. I don't know what it is. Describing it doesn't sound incredibly complex. I guess there is like some complexity. Randomly in the game, it'll start raining, and so you can't use the thunder gun, and you have to actually use a machine gun. And you think like, oh, that's gonna make the game more difficult, but no, the machine gun's also really great. It's just that you have to reload it. I played a version of it. There was a version of it online. I actually went home and played more Thunder Gun, and the online version isn't, it's not as good as the version that I played, but it's still pretty addictive. And Ted, you've made something incredibly cool. Another interview. With so many interviews, so many videos that are going to be going up once I get to the editing room. I mean, I literally just got back, and I got about 64 gigabytes of video that are going to have to be processed. This is a little bit of a rambling show, but my God, there was so much that just happened. We got a chance to actually talk to Nathan from Galactica Vision. Oh my God, I hope I'm saying it right. Nathan was very generous with his time. He's actually a developer in virtual reality, which is really exciting. He was talking about his game, which is going to be some sort of combination of VR and Joust, and they've been working on it before even the Oculus went to Kickstarter. So they have been doing this whole virtual reality thing for a long time. And if you're a long-time listener, you probably know that I'm very cautious about virtual reality. I'm not really convinced yet. I'm not trying to ruin the party for anybody, but so me and him, we sat down. I said, oh, it'll be about 5 minutes. I think we did about a 30-minute conversation, and he was just so open to. So I didn't, just go, I don't like VR. Make me like VR. But I'd ask him, questions, and very cautious questions, saying like, hey, you know what? I see a lot of developers that are really excited for this, but I don't know. Are people really going to want to spend money on something to just wear on their head that they can't share with anybody else? And you know what? He took those questions and gave some very, very, very honest answers. And we even got a chance to talk about old arcade games from the 90s and his experience with virtual reality in the 90s, which we actually shared a lot in common. So that was excellent. Definitely wait for that interview. That one's going to be, fantastic. So there was just so much that happened. I feel like I just walked out of a dream. Definitely bumped into the Portables of Doom guys, which are one of the early videos from my YouTube channel, which is really great. I actually was thinking about going and buying a copy of Fighting Vipers that I saw on the floor. Right before I bought it, I went, am I really going to play this? I should wait for someone else to pick this up. And once I finished saying that, Lauren from Portables of Doom just walked up and immediately picked it up and bought it, as well as a copy of Street Fighter Alpha. So good on him. I am actually 100% happy that someone that actually is going to play Fighting Vipers picked that up. And Lord knows what he's going to do with that, because he already created a portable Sega CD. Imagine a Game Boy and a Walkman. It was incredibly weird and incredibly exciting. Portable of Doom guys, as always, just Jason, John, Lauren, just crazy, weird devices. I don't understand how most of it works, but I'm so delighted by the wizardry that they pull off. Obviously influenced by Ben Heck, and they're living up to Ben Heck's name. They're making some very cool stuff, and Obviously, the entire time they were talking with us, they were also busy working on all the repairs to Sega Nomads. Everybody brought in their Sega Nomad for them to fix. And so I think if you have a Sega Nomad and you want yourself a wonderful screen, you go check out portablesofdoom.org. You might be saying, are you getting paid by them? Absolutely not. But they deserve the plug. Lots of hard work from those guys. It was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I'm sure I'm leaving out somebody, but I'll talk to them sooner or later. We're already 20 minutes into the show. I think it's safe to say that we should actually get into some of the news or the games of the week. You know what? I'm feeling like we should go through the news. I feel like that would be okay. So I'm thinking, why don't we start with the news and we'll go to the games of the week, later on. I guess we'll call this an extended version of Pressure Points, a more low-key version of Pressure Points. I'm sure you've already seen the time limit on this episode. I assume it's going to be a shorter episode. It was a very, very slow news week, but let's get over to the Pressure Points. So, a couple weeks ago, we heard that Nintendo was partnering up with the mobile developer DeNA. Well, we also just recently heard that DeNA has laid off a number of their employees. According to DeNA, here's what they had to say. DeNA Group is continually evaluating its game develop operations to ensure that it's structured in the best possible way to deliver high-quality mobile games to consumers worldwide. As part of the process, we've decided to reshape the structure of our North American studio operations along with a reduction in workforce. See, I told you I was tired. We appreciate their contributions to DeNA, and we are grateful for the opportunity to have worked with them. That's a real shame. And it's kind of strange because Nintendo just actually invested 10% of DeNA. Nintendo owns 10% of DeNA. Now, technically, DeNA owns 1.24% of Nintendo, but come on, what is that worth compared to what DeNA is worth? Now, DeNA has made a number of successful mobile titles, and they've already said that they're going to be working with Nintendo to create mobile titles. And now there's a series of layoffs. I mean, that's very unfortunate, no exact number was released, but that's very, very unfortunate. And this happens a lot, whenever anybody takes over a company or invests heavily into a company, the restructuring does happen. If you're working in a corporation and you get bought out by somebody else, the first thing you can expect is to meet a new manager and then to see a number of people get laid off, maybe yourself. So this isn't really anything shocking per se. It's just rather unfortunate, and that's sad. Hopefully, all those developers can land back on their feet or find a good job. I'm sure they will. DeNA is one of the more respected mobile developers. They've had a lot of success in the past, and with mobile games getting bigger every year, I'm sure they're going to do just fine. There's always room for another developer if they want to start their own company. I'm sure people would pay attention to that. I guess, do they get to add Nintendo onto the resume? Probably not. They didn't work on any games. But hey, if I were them, I might sneak that in and be like, oh yeah, worked for Nintendo for a few weeks or whatever. Just say 2015. You don't have to give an end date. That's my recommendation. Well, Nintendo also has some mobile plans for the future with their 3DS. Yokai Watch is actually going to come to the United States at some point. It's been officially announced. They haven't announced the international release date. They just said that it's going to be coming to, the UK and New Zealand and, South America, Korea, and the United States. This is a big deal. Yokai Watch is kind of like the new version of Pokemon in some way. You're capturing ghosts. It's got a very popular, manga and an anime. Lots of people are invested in the series. I think it was one of the guys from 8 for Play was trying to explain the appeal on, I think it was an IGN podcast. And he said, yeah, this is a very popular game. I think he even said he liked the game, but the problem he said was that some of the translations are going to be difficult, like the ghost that makes the bath too hot. You see, whenever the bath is too hot, and who doesn't relate to that? It's because of a ghost. If that sounds far too abstract, that's because it's far more common in Japan. That's a common joke, like, oh, the bath is too hot. I don't know what the American comparison for that would be, but that is what is in something like Yokai Watch. So I'm very curious to see what this is going to be like when it comes over to America, what they're going to be able to do in terms of translation, and more importantly, how well it does. I question whether or not they can just simply release the game and that'll be good enough, or if they have to go above and beyond and actually create the anime, or release the anime in America. That was very successful for Pokemon. Keep that in mind. By the time Pokemon came out in America, the anime was starting up on Kids WB. It was actually already on television, syndicated from 4Kids. So if I was Nintendo, or if I was 4Kids, or if I was Funimation, I would definitely try and snatch up the rights to Yokai Watch and start releasing that in America to coincide with the game. Because if that's a success, my God, it's going to be a success for a very, very, very long time. They're still releasing Pokemon animes. Still. It's unbelievable. What has it been? 17 years? 18 years? More than that? But the question really remains, as well as the 3DS is done, as well as the new 3DS, it's nowhere near the numbers of, say, something like, the original DS, or the Game Boy Advance, or the Game Boy. So are there going to be enough numbers to actually make Yokai Watch a bona fide hit? And if there aren't, will Yokai Watch make children invested in picking up a 3DS? One would hope. Because the better the 3DS does, the better the entire video game industry does. Make no mistake about it, the 3DS is successful. It's just not as successful as Nintendo has traditionally done. So, Yokai Watch, very excited. Look for that at some point in the near future. I guess 2016 is a definite possibility. And if you're a fan of Level 5, hey, they developed it. Who doesn't love Level 5? Well, I guess people that don't like RPGs. Then again, if you don't like RPGs, I don't know why you listen to a video game podcast. Maybe you go on YouTube. I'm setting myself up for a segue because we have to talk about Angry Joe. I certainly did with the beer and game guys. That was fun. They were talking about Angry Joe, as was I, because Angry Joe was incredibly angry at Nintendo. You see, what happened was he actually made a video involving Mario Party, and Nintendo, they put a copyright claim on there. Now, that's not uncommon. Nintendo has said they're going to be claiming whatever they can, unless you're part of their program. And even if you're part of their program, the claim is still going to happen. You're just going to get a bigger percentage. But it appears that 100% of the profit from that video, from the monetization, according to Angry Joe, all right, is going to be obtained by Nintendo. And he was none too happy about this. He went on YouTube. He looked very tired. Looked like he hadn't gotten any sleep. He clearly didn't have any makeup. He wasn't using his traditional blue screen. It was just him, standing, or actually sitting at his desk using some sort of webcam and just venting and venting and venting and venting and venting. And if I can say so, that man, he might want to learn how to edit. Then again, I guess I'm doing a podcast by myself where I'm rambling about the Midwest Gaming Classic. So who am I to judge? But here's what he said. I hope Nintendo enjoyed the free ad revenue and positive coverage I generated for them, because after this, that's the last Nintendo video I'll do. It's not enough that I went out and bought a $300 console, 4 Pro controllers, and a $50 to $60 piece, at $50 to $60 a piece, 4 $40 remotes, controllers. My God, I'm sorry. This, when you read Angry Joe written out, it's damn near impossible, because he just is like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's just read his tweets, because he basically repeats himself. Okay, on Twitter, here's what he said. It's not enough that I bought a Wii U, 4 Pro controllers, 4 Wiimotes, 4 plus games, $900. They need to monetize when I share my play sessions. Someone said, hey, keep up the good fight. Maybe this will wake up Nintendo. And he said, it's not Nintendo of America's fault. They actually understand and have tried to convince Nintendo Japan. It's Nintendo Japan that won't budge on this. And, I saw some tweets exchanged back and forth. I think David Jaffe, the creator of Twisted Metal, he actually said, hey, Angry Joe, I like your videos, but you're acting really entitled. You gotta relax. And people went, what's the matter, Jaffe? You don't want people to stream your games or make video? Afraid we might see something wrong with it? And he's like, what? Have you read anything I write? I want everyone to stream my games. That's true. Jeffy loves it when you make YouTube videos of his stuff. He's happy with it. He's a very interesting person like that. So, Angry Joe eventually jumped in and, he said, I don't understand you, Jaffe, why are you disagreeing with me? And, Jaffe just said, hey, I agree with you. 100%. You should be able to stream whatever you want. Nintendo should embrace streaming. But Nintendo says no. And legally, you have to respect that. You can't make money off of someone else's content, no matter how much you edit it. The core is coming from Nintendo. And you know what? I agree. If you go to my YouTube, I do videos on Nintendo. I don't really monetize my videos, but Nintendo always puts a claim right on there, and they make money off of whatever I do. And I'm fine with that. Because here's my logic to it. Angry Joe's a big guy. He can do whatever he wants. He's very popular. And I'm nowhere near Angry Joe levels. Not even a smidgen. Not a percent of Angry Joe's levels. So Angry Joe says, hey, you know what? I don't want to bother with Nintendo anymore because I'm losing out on revenue and blah, 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 blah. For me, putting out Nintendo content, it gets me more subscribers. If they subscribe to that, they're more likely to watch other content that I can monetize. So it works for me. And you know what? I completely understand Nintendo's right. They can just take my videos and say, nope, you can't put it on there. I've had that happen before. I've had videos that had music in them where they said, nope, you can't have that there. Your video's off of YouTube. Nope, you can't have Call of Duty. The first hour of Call of Duty never went up. It went up, well, and then Activision said, nope, you can't do that. Well, what are they thinking? What a bunch of idiots. But that's their right. It is absolutely their right to make bad decisions. And the sooner Nintendo realizes that Microsoft and Sony have dedicated streaming services built into their operating system at this point. I mean, for God's sakes, you can actually say to your Kinect that you want to stream or record. There's a button on the PlayStation 4 controller for that sole purpose, the share button. Just for that. Nintendo doesn't like that. They want to control the information. They want you to actually sign up for their weird program on YouTube. Is that a bad choice? Maybe. I guess we haven't seen the end results. I'm going to say yes. That's a poor decision. Because it makes people seem that they work for Nintendo. And that's absolutely their right. You hear this all the time about YouTubers getting contacted by third-party developers saying, hey, you know what, we'll give you a free copy, but it's got to be positive coverage. And they go, okay, because they get a free game. And then they get tweeted out by the company and they get a bunch of views. That's not what I do. All right, and that's not what Angry Joe does. But it is absolutely in their interest as third-party developers or for Nintendo to control their narrative and to control their coverage. Who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't want to do that? If you have, let's say, I don't know what kind of job you work because I'm talking to you as in the royal you, every single listener out here. But if you could convince somebody to give you a promotion, to get you a raise, why wouldn't you do that? Why would you not do that? That's what those third parties are doing. They are given the opportunity to be exposed on a wider level that's going to improve sales, that's going to improve revenue, that's going to improve awareness. Why in the hell would they not do that? So there's no bad guy here. That's the thing that pisses me off about this story. That people assume, no, there has to be a bad guy. No, you could disagree with someone. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean Nintendo's bad. I mean, deal with it. Come on. Now, if you choose not to cover Nintendo, like Angry Joe, totally within your prerogative. Go for it. Me, I'm going to keep doing it. Gets more eyeballs on my content. And Nintendo, you're making a mistake. I'm going to say it. You're making a mistake. But you know what? That is absolutely within your right. What they probably didn't plan on is that YouTube is actually offering an ad-free subscription service. This is according to a report from Bloomberg. Apparently, there were a number of content creators, higher-up content creators, that they received this email from YouTube. And it was basically a bunch of PR. So, excuse me when I sound like a PR guy for a moment. They said, your fans want choices. See, I told you I'm tired, folks. We're taking another big step in favor of choice, offering fans an ad-free version of YouTube for a monthly fee. By creating a new paid offering, we'll generate a new source of revenue that will supplement your fast-growing advertising revenue. So what's next? Launching a new paid offering will require us to update your terms. Just as with mobile, we're confident this latest contract update will excite your fans and generate a previously untapped additional source of revenue for you. It's an exciting year for YouTube as we push ourselves into uncharted territories, but we continue to be guided by a desire to deliver the choices fans want and revenue you need. By working closely with you, we know it'll be a successful journey. Well, YouTube eventually was contacted about this, and they're like, well, we like giving people choices. So they didn't crack. And here's my whole thing, all right? When someone watches one of your videos, you're making a fraction of a cent. It takes a lot of views to actually, ramp up into some serious money. You look at somebody like a PewDiePie and they're making great money, but look at all the millions of subscribers. He's the most popular person on YouTube. And he is, a millionaire. But he's not making, he's not making Hollywood money. All right, he's not making TV money. He's making YouTube money. It's a very small percentage, okay? But if PewDiePie is getting this ad-free revenue, is that helping him or is that hurting him? Because here's what you've got to ask yourself. If everybody signs on board to this ad-free revenue service, that's good. Everybody wins. The viewers win. Everybody does. However, if you take these people that watch dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of videos and they all sign up for this, what percentage of you as a YouTube creator are you receiving? What percentage of these ad-free subscriptions are you receiving if they only watch one of your videos a week? How much are you making off of that? Are you making more? Are you making less? How long's the subscription? How much does it cost? Let's say it's $10, okay? So what is that? That if it's $10, how many cents exactly are you making off of one view out of the whole month? They only have to spend $10 and they don't see a single advertisement. I'm not convinced that it's really going to work unless everybody signs on. But I could be totally wrong. I could be. But, is anyone really interested in this ad-free revenue? I mean, I suppose if you're watching it strictly on your iPad or if you're watching strictly on your mobile phone, maybe. But if you're watching on a computer, what percentage of people that watch a ton of videos don't have Adblocker Plus? And I've got on the record. I said Adblocker Plus. Let's start calling it that. It's pus. It's mucus. That's what Adblocker is. I use Adblocker. I like to be protected. But if I like somebody, if I return to their content, if I bookmark them, if I find them worth bookmarking, Adblocker goes off. I want them to receive that revenue, how small it might be, because they deserve it. I'm consuming their work. I'm not going to steal from them. And yes, I'm going to say, if you're watching somebody's YouTube videos with Adblocker Plus, that's stealing. Come on. You know YouTube is a reliable website. You know you're not going to get some stupid virus or a pop-up from YouTube. Come on. Turn that off. There's no reason for that to be on. I don't monetize my videos, but yeah, maybe Nintendo wants to place an ad before one of the videos they use the Nintendo Wii. That's fine. Let them get a couple of bucks for some entertainment. I'm talking a couple of bucks over thousands upon thousands of views. Come on. Is that really too much to ask? 30 seconds of your time. You're probably already looking at your phone anyway while you're watching the damn video. Can you just look at your phone a little bit longer while the advertisement's playing? How do you know you don't even like the advertisement? They generate these ads for you. You sure you don't want to see an advertisement for the latest Tomb Raider? Some cool CG? No? Whatever. So no word yet on when that will actually be unveiled. But, YouTube without ads, I don't know. Leave me a comment. PRESSURECAST@gmail.com. Tell me what you think. Are you going to actually give some money to YouTube, or is that just too much for you? Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. Whew. I will give them some money for better upload speeds any day of the week. Holy crap. I could use it. I got great internet. Please, YouTube. Let me do that. Maybe that service already exists. Shoot me an email. Let me know. Speaking of faster... that was a bad segue. But speaking of faster, Phil Spencer, he's the head of Xbox. He actually talked a little bit about DirectX 12, and he said that the dashboard will be taking full advantage of this brand new DirectX 12. He said it's going to be speeding up their UI, or at least that speeding up their UI is on their top priority. Well, that's exciting. I don't know if anyone really has a problem with the speed of the Xbox One dashboard. I thought it was fine. And even Phil Spencer admits, here's what he said. People ask me, is it going to be dramatic? And I think the answer is no at the time, and I'd say the same thing now, but it will ease development. I mean, that's really what it's all about, just making it easier for developers. Why not? They need it. Xbox One already has some issues. I mean, is DirectX 12 going to mean that we're going to get 1080p on every single game? I doubt it. That would be very, very nice. I mean, the Xbox One is a fantastic system, and when someone says, I won't play something unless it's 1080p, I won't play it unless it's this many frames a second, I won't play it unless it's got this many textures, I say, that's great, go buy a PC. Oh, okay. You don't really care that much. As long as it's thrifty, and as long as you can say you're better than somebody else, then you're all for it. Seriously, Xbox One, solid system. And that's what's really cool, is that they're also going to be releasing Episode 1 of Conker's Bad Fur Day on Project Spark. It's going to be on April 23rd. This is a brand new adventure. It's going to be $5. It's going to star Conker. It's going to have brand new assets. And it's going to be all about Conker's big reunion. I guess they've said that maybe they'll develop a full Conker title, but at the moment there is absolutely no such title in development. Some people don't buy into that, which is crazy. If they say it's not being developed, trust me, it's probably not being... They would not comment. They would not go out of their way to comment. Hey, by the way, we're not making that. Why would they bother? Why would they waste their time? Oh, it's a secret plan to make the fans get more for... I don't know why. I read this stuff all the time. I have no idea. These conspiracy theories. Come on. I think what they're going to do is they're going to play it by ear. They're going to see, if Conker's Bad Fur Day or Conker's Big Reunion does well on Project Spark. Project Spark, of course, is free. But if you want a bunch of the assets, you actually have to pay for the paid version of that, or the disc-based version. You can check out a video I did on the disc-based version. It got a bunch of thumbs down. I have no idea why. People seem to like the video. I don't know why some people just gave me a bunch of thumbs down. I guess that must be the Project Spark community. Which, Project Spark is okay. I talked to a lot of developers, actually, while we were going through, the expo this weekend. And a lot of them went, ugh, Project Spark. Like, no thanks. And then some of them even said, like, oh, I was so excited for that, because... just sit there and make a game in an afternoon, and then I actually played it, and maybe it'll be good for kids. That's what I heard from one guy. Maybe it'll be good for kids. Well, let me tell you, if Conker's on it, it will be awesome for kids. I was young enough to actually play Conker's Bad Fur Day. Glad to see the guy is back. I think they even have the original voice actor, which is very cool, but, we'll see if Conker can hang with the modern era. Hopefully he'll do better than he did when he was on Xbox, that Live and Reloaded. Ugh. Definitely not one of my favorites. But one of my favorites was Ori and the Blind Forest. We talked about that last month. Well, the CEO of Moon Studios, Thomas Mahler. Mahler? Is it just Mailer? It's Mailer. Oh my god. Thomas Mahler. Did I tell you I'm tired yet? Thomas Mahler actually discussed the future of the Ori series. He basically stated the obvious when he said, the more copies we sell, the higher chance that we have to get to work on a new project. I think we crafted a big world with memorable characters, and there's a lot of potential for us to go in and keep working on that tale. I've read both sides now. People that love the story, and people that really only cared for the gameplay and dismissed the story. But there was actually quite a lot of lore we created that didn't make it into the Blind Forest. I do really like that we kept the story focused on that triangle relationship between Ori, Naru, and Kuro. I love that our characters have quite a lot of depth, and that even our antagonist isn't just out to take over the world, but has a good reason for her actions. Yeah, you know what? Ori was a fantastic game. But here's what he actually said that was interesting. Ultimately, I think it would be amazing if some movie studio would acquire the film rights and produce a film based on Ori. I think the story we crafted would suit itself really well for that medium as well. I gotta agree. If you've not played Ori and the Blind Forest, if you got a PC, pick it up. If you got an Xbox One, pick it up. If you got a PS4, find a way to play it. Find a way to play at least the very first hour of that game. Or, oh my god, look at me. Look at me not plugging my own content. Go to my YouTube, click on Ori and the Blind Forest, and watch the very first hour. You'll have my stupid voice all over that game. You'll love it. The first 30 minutes of that game are some excellent storytelling, and the rest of it is some just incredible gameplay. It's been compared to Super Meat Boy, justifiably so. There's a lot of challenging platforming. I really enjoyed the game. I thought it was fantastic. One of the best games of the year. Didn't finish it, and already I know it's one of the best games of the year. I suppose I should finish that before we get into summer, because then we're gonna have to do the games of the year coming up sooner or later. It was utterly fantastic though, and to have a movie with those characters, I think they could pull it off. I can totally see almost like a Pixar film, or a very low key DreamWorks production, CG, or if we could get some hand drawn animation, even better. Oh my god, I would freak out over that. Just the character design is fantastic. The world is fascinating. I would highly recommend anyone check that out. I think it would very much lend itself to a movie. Will it go to be a movie? I assume so. I assume that some property is going to be made out of this other than a game, whether that be a movie or a comic book or a book or an animated series. Who knows? Maybe Microsoft tries to pick up the slack. They've seen that Sony is doing Powers over on the PlayStation 4, and they go, oh, we could do that. Let's make it an Ori TV show. We're already making a Master Chief show. Let's do this. Are they still making that Master Chief show, by the way? I honestly don't know. I really wonder if they are. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway. Don Mattrick, the guy who used to run the Xbox division, or I'm sorry, he ran games and devices, or whatever he was working on over at Microsoft. He left after the rather disastrous debut of the Xbox One to the public, before the system even released, really. And he went over to Zynga, leaving, eventually Phil Spencer would take over his role. Well, now he's leaving Zynga, and it's only been 2 years. And Mark Pincus is becoming the chief executive again. What? Yeah, Mark Pincus has returned to his company and he's taking over again. And he's got nothing but kind things to say about Don Mattrick. Here's what he said. Don joined us at a very important time in our evolution. In less than 2 years under his guidance, our teams have worked hard to better serve our mobile players and deliver world-class quality and value to our customers. He did say that they're going to be, it's time to renew our focus on our vision to make play and social games a mass market activity. I'm not really sure what to say about the Don Mattrick tenure over at Zynga. I mean, we saw things like natural motion, the physics engine, or is it the animation engine? You see it all over the Grand Theft Auto games. They acquired them into the Zynga household, which I'm sure brought in some money, but I'm not sure where they're using those assets and patents and animations and engines. So it's hard to say exactly what happened there. It seemed that no matter what Don Mattrick did over at Zynga, he was never really the Zynga CEO in the public mind. He was always the guy that left Microsoft holding the bag. Regardless of whether or not he figured this out beforehand. Regardless of whether or not he went to Microsoft well in advance and said, okay, I'll help unveil the console, but here are my plans. I don't want to go through another, I don't want to be involved in a console launch. That's it could be all in the up and up. Nevertheless, people always think back to him revealing that system and the debacle that followed. So him as CEO of Zynga, don't know. No one ever really talked to him or talked about him in that capacity. It was always just the guy who used to run Xbox, and he left when everything went wrong. Of course, Don Mattrick is an incredible talent. He started his own game company at a very young age. He worked his way up to the top of the video game market. He deserves a lot of respect, and it's a real shame that his reputation seems to be continuing to be tarnished by something that, in all likelihood, wasn't his fault. It's not, one person doesn't make a video game system, especially over at Microsoft. Okay, they definitely wanted that to be an entertainment machine. And was that Don Mattrick who was forcing that? Is that Don Mattrick who said, no, we can't talk about games? Who knows? I doubt it. I mean, the guy has worked his whole life in video games. Suddenly he just goes, I don't like that anymore. I want to talk about TV on stage for an hour. I doubt it. Give him the benefit of the doubt. So look forward to whatever project he's working on. He could just stay home for the rest of his life. He's got enough money. He's very comfortable, regardless. You could say almost the same thing about Tony Hawk. You liking these segues? I don't really have anybody to... I swear, I'm not planning on them. I just look at the next story and go, okay, all right. How can I put this together? How can I combine these two desperate elements? Moving on. So apparently there is going to be a brand new Tony Hawk game that's going to be revealed at some point. Here's what's interesting about it. There was a tweet out by Alex Rubens. Here's what he said. He retweeted this. He said, so a caterer at a Tony Hawk event totally just posted a photo that has Tony Hawk 5 in the background. Yeah. And here's the funny thing about it. Tony Hawk 5 would be kind of, almost a tongue-in-cheek title at this point. I mean, Tony Hawk 4 came out in 2002. In case you don't know, they were making Tony Hawk games every year after that. I think until almost a decade. I think, was that Tony Hawk HD? Was that 2011, 2012? I think it was 2012. I actually just saw someone at the Classic Game Expo, whatever the hell the name of the expo was, playing that, and I was like, oh, that game's okay. And I really believe it. It's okay. And he's like, really? I hate this. And then I watched him play it for another 20 minutes. It was one of the guys over at the Scatcast. Really nice guys over there. Tony Hawk 5. I want it. There is nothing else like Tony Hawk. There was never anything else like Tony Hawk, despite all the people trying different things. They tried it with Aggressive Inline, with Acclaim, which I think was the absolute best duplication of the series. They eventually, tried it out with different skateboarding franchises and wakeboarding and all sorts of stuff. Parkour, Mark Echo's Getting Up in some ways was trying to be like Tony Hawk, in some ways. No one else could ever be like Tony Hawk. Skate didn't even try. It went for a completely different style of gameplay. One that was more revered by actual skaters, and in some cases, I would say, less fun. Very good game, but less fun. So to have her turn to the Tony Hawk style, I say, yeah, why not? Tony Hawk is so much fun, and for whatever reason, who knows, we're seeing a lot of revivals online through Kickstarter, or through Sony, or whoever, Nintendo, just saying, alright, fine, you can finally have Majora's Mask. We'll bring Majora's Mask back, enjoy, or, Sony just, when they re-released Twisted Metal just a couple of years ago, it seems like every franchise gets its turn. Sooner or later, everybody comes back to the fold. Everybody gets a sequel. Except Shenmue. Sega, please make Shenmue. Sega, are you listening? Please make Shenmue. Sega, please make Shenmue 3. That'd be really nice. But it's true. Sooner or later, we're going to get another Tony Hawk game. And I mean a traditional Tony Hawk game. Yeah, there was that whole mobile thing that was being worked on, and then nothing happened. But, I mean, if you look in the picture, whether it's real or not, that's up to you. Alex Rubens, is he a reliable person? The answer is yes. Would a random caterer Photoshop a Tony Hawk 5 logo in the background of an event? Maybe. I doubt it. I don't know what it hasn't really set the world on fire. But a brand new Tony Hawk game, I think, would be very successful. I mean, Activision ran into the ground. They can revive the series. There's rumors they're going to bring back Guitar Hero. See, there's a good example. There's rumors they're going to bring back Guitar Hero because they're bringing back Rock Band. Everybody gets another go-around in this industry. Everybody. Whether they deserve it or not, everybody gets another turn around. I mean, we're talking about Silicon Knights is going to come back eventually in one form or another. Come on. So I would look forward to that. Who we got here? We got any Monster Hunter fans listening? I hope so. Because I got good news for you. Capcom has just announced the Monster Hunter Stories game for the 3DS. This is going to be an RPG based around the Monster Hunter universe, and it's going to release in 2016 in Japan, of course. Will it ever come to the United States? Who knows? From what I understand, Monster Hunter 4 is not doing particularly well in terms of physical sales. You might be saying, well, what's wrong with it? Are there just copies sitting on the shelves? No, there's no copy on the shelves. Because they're very hard to find. I did see a few people playing Monster Hunter at the, the Midwest Gaming Classic. I saw two people standing next to each other with that amazing Monster Hunter 4 Edition new 3DS. That thing is gorgeous. It's just plastic, but it looks like metal. It's unbelievable. You've got to look it up. Look it up. You're listening to a podcast. Come on, go ahead and look it up. So another Monster Hunter game, is that really a surprise? Absolutely not. This is a side story. This is a spin-off. Capcom has not done very well for themselves over the past few years. They've been actually having a lot of their franchises receive a level of fatigue. For whatever reason, Monster Hunter is going on high, even though they essentially release the game and then re-release it the next year. And they seem to do just fine. And it feels like they're finally getting a threshold in America. Who knows how the digital sales are doing, but you can't find yourself a physical copy. They just need to make more copies. That's the problem. It's not selling very well because there are no copies. So hopefully digital sales are going well. Could we get an RPG for the 3DS with Monster Hunter characters? I hope. There's really not that many JRPGs on the 3DS. Oh, what about, whatever it is, Etrian Odyssey or whatever, There's so many of these games. Oh, Square released, Brave the Default Fairy. Come on, guys. I mean, compared to the Vita, it's nowhere near the same level. Compared to the PSP, there's so many damn JRPGs on these systems. And if you tie the Monster Hunter name to a JRPG, holy crap. Might as well just print money. They're going to do just fine in Japan. So hopefully that'll be coming to America sooner or later. We know that the Vita is actually getting its own game. Side story. This segue is not working out. Resident Evil Revelations 2 will be coming to the Vita this summer. It will not have online or ad hoc co-op for the raid mode, which is unfortunate. But come on, the idea that we're actually going to get all of Resident Evil Revelations 2, kind of exciting. The thing about Resident Evil Revelations 2 is that it does start off very strong and it kind of meanders towards the end. However, I gotta say that those first couple of episodes are so strong that you're really going to want to continue playing those games. And it really reinvigorated my optimism for the series. So hopefully we'll actually get some more games like that. Having it on the Vita, yeah, I'll pick it up. Will I do a video on it? Probably not. Come on. I already got a video of that out there. I played it on the PlayStation 4. Forget who's actually porting the game over. It's not Capcom themselves, but someone said that this is their very first release. Everything else they've done are mobile games. So we'll see how they do for a port. Capcom also got a brand new CEO in Europe. Katsuhiko Ichi. See, I do just fine with names when there aren't people to giggle at me. Apparently he's worked for the company for over 10 years, and he's going to be replacing Hiroshi Tobisawa. Tobisawa? Okay, fine, whatever. Make fun of me. I can't help it. These Japanese names. I try so hard, and this is all I got. Fine. Here's what Ichi had to say. It is an absolute honor to be joining Capcom Europe, and I am excited to be part of the team here. I look forward to building on Capcom's recent success, product launches, and driving the business further across Europe in the years to come. Cool. I mean, I don't know. Capcom Europe, I mean, they need all the help they can get. They're just not doing well in general. I mean, there's a reason that Sony is having to step in and actually help take care of Street Fighter V. I mean, something's wrong when Capcom is having difficulty getting or working out the financial reasonings behind a Street Fighter title. After re-releasing that same game, 5 times? Come on. I'm not talking about Street Fighter 4 specifically. They re-released that game 5 times. Come on. And they couldn't get the funds together to make a brand new Street Fighter? There's something fishy going on there. Wait and see. Speaking of fighting games, Dead or Alive 5 on the PC, it's got its own issues. It doesn't have online play. I mean, tons of issues. But one thing it does have is a very dedicated modding community, which of course automatically made everybody nude. Whatever. But somebody actually made Dead or Alive Shenmue Edition. It's made by Tinker Esperal. Weird name. However, they took the character Jackie and turned him into the protagonist from Shenmue, Ryu, and turned Akira into Lan Di, the antagonist in Shenmue. And the dojo stage is now Shenmue's dojo from Shenmue 1, which is really just, it's Ryu's house, and you can train him in that room, which is awfully exciting. I mean, it's cool just to see such a passionate fan base recreating Shenmue characters in these recent fighting games. It is funny because, they are essentially taking virtual fighter characters that were in Dead or Alive 5 and turning them into other Sega characters, which is pretty funny. Obviously, these games were developed by Team Ninja, which we just found out are busy at work working with Square Enix on the new DeNA game. Now, DeNA Final Fantasy is like that hodgepodge, Crisis on Infinite Earths, where all the Final Fantasies work together and fight against each other. Apparently, it's going to be worked on and completed by Team Ninja, and it will be made for the PlayStation 4. So, Square Enix is outsourcing development on that. However, they said they're not going to see that game even begin development until after the arcade version of DeNA comes out. Very curious. Last time Team Ninja took over another franchise, we got Metroid Other M. You remember that? That was sure something. But we also learned that Final Fantasy Type 0 has shipped 1 million copies worldwide. This, of course, is the game that also had the Final Fantasy 15 demo. Yeah, so Final Fantasy Type 0 was on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It's very curious, They've announced that they've shipped 1 million copies since March. Well, this is early April, and they're announcing shipped numbers. Shipped numbers don't mean squat. I mean, I could tell you about all the ship numbers I want. I could ship 1 million bags full of confetti. I am so tired I'm making really abstract comparisons. I say, oh my god, I have shipped over 1 million. And people go, why are people buying all that damn confetti? Well, no one's buying it. No one has to buy it for it to be announced that it's shipped. It's just shipped, not sold through. There's a very important distinction. However, if you can't wait for the next Final Fantasy, you can actually now play Final Fantasy 13 again on your iOS or Android device. That's right. Square Enix brand new cloud-based streaming service, which requires a 3 megabyte connection, is now available for just 2,000 yen. That's around $18 American, $17 American. You can buy the full game and stream it everywhere you go. You might be saying, excellent, I'm going to go do that immediately. Well, hold on, you might want to learn how to speak Japanese first because it's only in Japanese. It's true. So, yes, I guess some people were actually already showing this off. It looks quite good. I mean, it looks like, Final Fantasy 13, and it doesn't have to take a graphical hit because it's merely streaming to you. It's not actually processing all of the graphics. So that's something. I mean, is cloud-based gaming really going to take off? I mean, last week we heard about OnLive shutting down. We heard Sony acquired that. PlayStation Now, I don't think anyone has really seen any solid numbers of how successful that is. I mean, cloud gaming could be the future. I don't want it to be. You might be saying, why not? Isn't that a cool service? That way we don't have to worry about, upgrading our boxes again and again and again. Instead, we could just have these awesome games forever. Well, hold on. I like physical media. Yeah. I know everybody wants to download their games. I don't believe in games as a service. I want to have those games forever. So the idea of streaming my library is, makes me a bit queasy, to be honest with you. I need to have a physical copy so that, I have something to hold on to while I cry myself to sleep. Still got my copy of Way of the Samurai on the PS2. Okay. Ken Levine actually has been discussing what he's going to be up to with his brand new game. Now you gotta remember, he's still with, he's still working with Irrational Games in some capacity. Obviously, Irrational Games is no more, but he's taken that smaller team to create a new title. Here's what he had to say, alright? Here's what Ken Levine's working on. In the new game, you have very fluid relationships with the characters. They have a spectrum of feeling about you based on what you do and if you help them or go against them. That can change dynamically, and you can end the game with a character absolutely despising you or somewhere in the middle. The path to getting there doesn't have 7 or 8 stops like your traditional branching tree structure. It has potentially thousands of stops with hundreds of thousands of potential states you can be in with all your relationships to all the characters and wants. Is this Peter Molyneux? Be honest. Is Ken Levine and Peter, are they one and the same? Was it because everyone got pissed at Peter Molyneux for a couple of weeks and now he's gone back to his other persona? Now that I think about it, it doesn't seem like BioShock games and Fable games ever came out in the same year. In fact, they were usually a year apart. The jig is up, Mr. Molyneux. I mean, when I read something like this, that's like, wow, that's ambitious. Good luck. Like, really, good luck. Because seriously, who in their right mind is going to be able to develop that, especially with a smaller team? Like, I don't understand that. Now, maybe it's going to be like one of those games like The Thing. Do you remember The Thing on the PlayStation 2? Where you had a trust meter, where you had to trust the rest of your teammates, and whatever you did made them trust you more, trust you less, and sometimes one person would trust you a bunch, and the other person wouldn't, and the other person would try and kill you, and the person that trusts you would help you fight them off, or sometimes they would both not trust you. It was a very cool game. That was released, in the PlayStation 2 era. So I imagine something like this is possible, but when I read text like that, I go, oof. Remember, it's best to under-promise and over-deliver. But now he's promised something incredible. That's good luck, Ken Levine, and your small team. When will we see this game? Who knows? It's going to be years, I imagine. I mean, keep in mind, when did Bioshock Infinite begin development? What was that? Jesus, like 6 years, 7 years of development. We saw it at E3s. It would go dark for years on end. People would say it was canceled, then it would come back up, and then it would finally release. And then they obviously the guy that he's over at Black Tusk and he used to work on the Gears of War games. He actually had to go in there and fix up the game before leaving the company immediately after the game was over. Ken Levine without limitation, other than a small team, because I'm sure 2K Games will happily fund his next project, even though they didn't really get a return in revenue for Bioshock Infinite or profit necessarily. Can he deliver something like that? Sure. Is that going to be a good game, though? Can you make a good game around that? Maybe, but we'll have to find out whenever that's released. I mean, these are all very vague terms, so who knows exactly what he's developing. Speaking of developers, Hideo Kojima. Long story going on now about him and Konami on the outs. The way that Kojima's name has been erased from a number of titles. It's been removed from the older titles and the upcoming Phantom Pain, the brand new and last entry of Metal Gear Solid from Kojima. He said that is his final entry. Konami said, hey, we're already hiring for the next game. Who knows if this is like a tactic to get Kojima to come back or what's going on? Well, one person, Donna Burke, she's actually a voice actress. She voices the iDroid in Ground Zeroes. So, definitely go back and play Ground Zeroes and listen for the iDroid, because that's the voice you're going to want to hear. She went on Twitter and was responding to the way that the Examiner was talking about, let's backtrack a little bit. Snake's voice actor in Japan urged people not to cancel their pre-orders. Seems kind of random, doesn't it? Well, Donna Burke actually responded. He said, yes, don't throw away the Kojima team's work over the last 5 years because upper management fired a genius. Well, everybody just went, wait a minute, that's news to us. In fact, one person actually tweeted back, did you just confirm that he was fired? According to Donna Burke, she said, yes, but it's been out in the media for weeks. Ellipses. But it's true. What? Someone else retweeted back, I'm scared of how this game will turn out in the end. I had so much hopes for it. Fuck you, Konami. Donna Burke responded, the game is fantastic. Come on. I think the budget for promotion, it won't be there. So, no me singing live. Okay. I mean, how close is Donna Burke to the situation? Who can really say? She's just a voice actress. Does she actually know anybody that can confirm that Kojima was fired from that position? And even if it's true, is it really her place to go on Twitter and just say, yeah, I know for sure. He was fired. Well, who does that benefit? It sure doesn't benefit Kojima. It sure doesn't benefit Konami. If Kojima is not talking, that's because he's under an NDA. If he wants to discuss that situation, he will do so in time. There's a time when those NDAs will expire, eventually. I know if Konami wanted to talk about it, which they already have talked about it, they would say something. They have not. All they've stated is that, hey, we wish him the best. I mean, it's a very suspicious situation. For all we know, Konami wants Kojima to stay, and he's saying no. He's saying, no, thank you. I don't want to stick around. I want to do something else. I've been here my entire life. I need to go somewhere else. I have no interest. And Konami is courting him and saying, oh, please. And then maybe that's why they're announcing this new team working on another Metal Gear Solid game. These auditions for a new Metal Gear Solid game. Maybe that's their way of saying, you want to come back? Come on, we bet you have a story. Bet you're kind of nervous. Maybe this will put you into work mode. Who could say? But Donna Burke, is that her place? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And when someone tweets back, did you just confirm they was fired? And she just goes, yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that gets Donna Burke a lot of attention. That's who it benefits. It benefits Donna Burke in her mind. In reality, I think this will hurt her. Because she'll go, well, she's a blabbermouth. Why would you hire her? And they're right. Who would hire her? Well, let me just release secrets. Apparently it's a secret, but let me just release that out into the public because I just feel like it. What are you, nuts? You can't do that. Oh, boy. Only got a few more stories left. We just found out that Lara Croft, the latest adventure in Tomb Raider, has now surpassed $8.5 million in sales, making the most successful Tomb Raider title ever. We also found out that in Mortal Kombat X, if you play the Challenge Towers, you'll be able to play as characters that you don't own because certain Challenge Towers require certain DLC characters, meaning that you'll get a chance to play as them even if you didn't spend the money. That's smart. Maybe you'll go, ooh, I like that person. And then when it's only, $5 for a couple of characters, you'll go, oh, okay. I'll drop some money. We found out that Amazon, according to a report, has signed a $70 million deal with CryEngine. Now, Amazon's trying to get into video games. They definitely have a number of developers under them, including Kim Swift, who worked on Portal, and, the often forgotten Quantum Conundrum, which is an excellent game. Also, Clint Hawking is over at the Amazon Game Studio. Is it possible that they would sign a deal with CryEngine? Perhaps. CryEngine could certainly use the money. Crytek is not doing very well. I mean, they were working on Homefront 2. Who knows what happened to that project, other than that the team has officially left and is now working directly under, I forget who, Coke, I believe. Coke Company. Not to be confused with the Koch brothers. So Amazon getting more serious about game development? Well, they already were. Only time will tell exactly how big these projects plan to get. I mean, not really much you can do on your Fire TV. But there's going to be plenty to do. But there's going to be plenty to do with The Witcher 3. I'm sorry. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep. Please bear with me. I come in here and I do episodes every single week. I put all this stuff in every single episode. I get all these news stories. Come on, give me an off week. I hope this is entertaining. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know if you think this is entertaining. The Witcher 3, of course, there's going to have 16 free pieces of DLC, but they've now announced that there's going to be 2 major paid pieces of DLC. The first one's going to be called Heart of Stone, and it's going to expand the game over 10 hours. While that one will come out this year, the next one, which has yet to have a release date, called Blood and Wine, is going to give you an extra 20 hours of DLC. Wow. I mean, that's incredible. An extra 30 hours through DLC, you just don't see that. In fact, some DLCs are, barely 5 hours long. But then again, this is the same company that decided, here's 16 free pieces of DLC. CD Projekt Red, no DRM, they give away free DLC. I mean, the PC community loves them. And I guess console community's going to love them too, because that'll be coming out very, very shortly on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC. Grand Theft Auto 5, however, is going to be coming to the PC tomorrow, Tuesday. And of course, it's obvious. If you want to play this game, go download it. And if you're going to download it, might as well go through Steam, unless you want some sort of cheaper deal. But remember, you're not going to get those Steam achievements. Yes. Now, you will also have the option to go to a store and buy it on discs. Multiple discs. Because it's going to have all 65 gigabytes, all 7 discs of the PC version of Grand Theft Auto 5 will be coming out this Tuesday. Can you believe that? 7 discs on for physical release. Who has time for that? Well, I guess I do, because I was talking about how I like physical releases. But seriously, 7 discs. I mean, most TV shows, their release of their seasons don't last 7 discs. Now, this is why, You know, you don't see a whole lot of games being released on Blu-ray for PC because why would you bother? Most computers don't have a Blu-ray drive. Most people are going strictly digital, so who could blame them? But if you really want to play GTA 5 on disc, which, hey, you know, installation will be faster than, downloading the title, I guess that's your option. We've also heard confirmation from Activision with their brand new teaser trailer that Black Ops 3 will be coming this fall. Okay, they didn't say this fall, but come on. Put it together, guys. And the game is being developed by Treyarch Studios. Treyarch, I guess by this point, everyone recognizes as the A team. They were formerly the B team when they were going up against Infinity Ward. Now they are the A team. Black Ops 3, we will see. Now you got to remember, they are now in a 3-year cycle between them and Sledgehammer and whoever else develops those games. I don't even remember. It was Sledgehammer, Infinity Ward, and Treyarch. Which, I am a defender of Call of Duty. It might not be your favorite game, but it's online paintball. It's perfectly fine. Will I play Black Ops 3? Yes, I know what I'm getting into. The games are perfectly fine. Will I play 100 hours online? No, I have too many other games to play. But you know what? I bet I'll enjoy myself while I play Black Ops 3 when it comes on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. I'm just assuming. And hey, maybe it'll even come to the Wii U, because if you go to the Call of Duty website, you can link your account to your PSN or your Xbox account, and now, out of nowhere, you can link your Wii U account. You can link things like your nickname for your Mii and your country from your Nintendo account. And everyone says, hey, wait, what's going on? Someone in NeoGaf just pointed this out. Well, it is quite curious if you think about it, because really, they haven't had a release since, Ghosts 2 years ago. So are they going to release it on the Wii U? Who can say? Is there really a market for it? I doubt it. If you really care about Call of Duty, you should probably get something else other than a Wii. But for all we know, maybe it's an easy enough port. Maybe it'll be digital only. Who knows? Or maybe they're not doing any of that. Maybe it won't come out. And it's just some pointless little thing where they say, hey, link your account. We want your information. Because, hey, they can always sell your information to somebody else to make a profit. It's legal. And also, we have discovered a brand new bit of information that's kind of weird. Five Nights at Freddy's is going to get its own movie, according to The Hollywood Reporter. They said that Warner Brothers is going to be working on the project, and that it's going to be worked on by Kaz Smith Productions by Seth Graham Smith. I guess he must be the Smith in Kaz Smith. Whereas David Kazenberg is also involved. He's the Kaz in Kaz Smith. According to Graham Smith, we're looking forward to working with Scott to make an insane, terrifying, and weirdly adorable movie. The story really lends itself to being a movie, and it taps into a largely unexplored niche of horror that a lot of people will be able to relate to. That last statement, of course, was from the original developer of the game, Scott Cawthon. Cawthon? Good God, I need sleep. Let's just say Scott Cawthon, alright? And lastly, Where VR's storefront has officially raised $1.5 million in investments. This will be an app where you can check out VR apps, and it'll be kind of like an iOS for virtual reality. We will see how successful that is. I can't wait for my interview to go up, with Nathan. That'll be fascinating to see how that goes down. I thought it was an excellent interview, and that a lot of people are really going to really going to be interested in what happens there. I'm getting mildly optimistic on VR. Mildly optimistic. So, what do we do now? I don't know. We've only been an hour long. Games of the week. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about one game, because it's the only game I give a crap about this week. I give a crap about a ton of games I played this week. I'd say go and check out Thunder Gun, check out Extreme Exterminators by Abysmal Ninja. See, I knew I was going to forget somebody. Abysmal Ninja. They put on quite a show with just a top-down shooter. Nothing flashy, but it was a lot of fun. Actually gives you randomized names that you get to select from. At one point, I played as the Cat's Balls. Yeah. What other game is going to offer you that? You can't get that from just every game, But yeah, it was a really good time. Played a bunch of games that were excellent. Obviously, I'm going to recommend Thunder Gun to everybody, and I'm going to champion that game. I will probably not review that game because I have lost all integrity by spewing endlessly about that game to anyone that would listen at the conference, saying, "Oh my God, you got to play Thunder Gun." But one of the other games that I kept talking about all throughout the week or the weekend was Affordable Space Adventure on the Wii U. This is an independent title that's on the Wii U. This small team, can't even remember the name of them. Basic premise is like, hey, we've now created affordable space travel. Here's this cheap little spaceship, and you can explore this beautiful planet with space dolphins and rainbows, and everything's great. Well, apparently not everything does go great, because when you start up the game, your little spaceship is quite damaged, and you are in the middle of a horrible thunderstorm on an alien planet full of things that want to kill you. But I guess you didn't pay for that much, so it was cheap at the end. I mean, hey, you get what you pay for. It's affordable space adventure. Well, this game is $20. It's only available on the eShop, and what's incredible about this is one of the only games I've ever played that really takes advantage of the television and the gamepad. If you look at the TV, it's just a simple game where you select where the ship goes, and you use your left analog stick to fulfill your decision. Fly it over here, fly it over there. There's a tunnel that I have to fly to. I'll use my flashlight with the right analog stick, or hey, I'll scan an object with the right trigger. Very, very basic gameplay. Okay, you can also rotate the Wii U gamepad. You can tilt it to the left or the right if you really want to make the ship go slightly to the left or slightly to the right. You will need to use that sooner or later. So it actually uses the accelerator, it uses the analog sticks, but it uses the touchpad. You can't play this game exclusively on the gamepad. You need the TV and the gamepad. You actually have to crank up the volume so you can hear noises from your ship. And here's what you got. You'll have things like your fire engine, which has things like thrust. And you can crank your thrust up from 0 to 5. So it's at 0, you can't go anywhere. If it's at 1, you can barely get off the ground, just barely for like a second. And if it's at 5, you'll go so fast that eventually the stress will cause your ship to burst into flames and explode and crash. The same thing with mass. You can change the mass of your ship. So let's say that you're floating on top of some water and you need to get to the bottom. You crank that mass up all the way and it's going to be awesome. You'll sink straight to the bottom. Now, if you do that in open air, well, your ship is probably going to explode again. So yeah, you have to be careful. And it's the same thing with your other engine, which is the electrical engine. You have the ability to, once again, adjust your thrust. It doesn't cause much stress on the ship, but it's also not quite as fast. You can also create anti-gravity, kind of like mass. Instead of sinking, it makes you fly up into the air. And so you have to balance out everything that you're using. You're like, okay, I need this flashlight to be on. I need my anti-gravity to be up to this. I need my thrust to be at a certain rate. The problem is that you are defenseless, utterly defenseless. And there's all these alien artifacts, devices, as well as these creepy monsters that are going to kill you. Now, by scanning them, you can actually learn what kind of detection they use. So that they are very, very intolerant of certain degrees of functionality. So let's say something like, ooh, yeah, you don't want your heat to be anywhere near this high. Or, hey, you don't want to make any noise. Or, hey, you can't use this much electricity. And they'll show it on 1 to 3 meters. So you'll be sitting there and going, okay, well, they don't like heat. So I guess I'll switch over to my electric engine. And they don't notice you. And you win. It's very nice. Or it'll say something like, oh, they don't like sound. So you very slowly stabilize your ship. So you just barely make a sound and you get right past them. And it's awesome. Game on. And then there'll be these points where it's like, well, they don't like electricity or heat, and I'm surrounded by them. How do I get around them? Well, just switch on your anti-gravity all the way up. It barely uses any electricity. And you just float all the way up to the top. It's really exciting, but sooner or later, you actually need to do something beyond solving puzzles. You actually need to quickly respond to the situation around you. One of my favorite moments was turning up my mass all the way so that I could fall. Or no, actually what I had to do is I had to turn off my ship's engine because this one creature was so intolerant that I had to fly past the radius of where it was. So I just dropped down through its radius because I had to go to the bottom of the screen. And I was like, wow, how smart am I? But immediately after that, there was a laser that he just crashed right into. So you had to turn off the engine, plummet, and then right before you crashed in that laser, you had to switch the ship back on, which you can actually hear like a small key going, rrr, 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 and the engine finally starts up. And just before you hit the laser, you start up and fly back into the air. It was really cool. Affordable space adventure on the Wii U. Check out the first hour if you don't believe me. If you own a Wii U, you have to play this game. You have to. It's $20. Oh my god, it's $20. Jesus Christ, everything on the Wii costs too much. All right? Every game is going to be $50 until the end of time. You might as well get used to it, all right? So go ahead and spend the $20 and support an original idea that actually takes advantage of every aspect of the Wii U. Okay? Okay, then. I mean, Jesus. You people. You hypothetical people. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode. It was a very low-key episode. It's a very short episode. I guess it's, 3/4 of a regular episode, so it's not that short. But, man, it was a rough weekend. We got so much footage that's going to be coming up if you're on the YouTube. It's gonna blow your mind. You're going to want to see a lot of this stuff. I really hope it turns out half as good as it should. If it's awful, then none of it will go up on YouTube, and I'll have wasted over 48 hours of my life and lots of money. Well, I hope that didn't happen, but I hope to see you back for the next episode of the Pressure Cast. Remember, you can check me out on iTunes and Stitcher and YouTube with the show, but also on Twitter. I am at Dr. Crychop. The show is at Pressure News. You'll find it Pressure Cast with the signature hyper green and hyper pink logo. Where else can you find me? I don't know. Email us, pressurecast@gmail.com, and make sure to go to youtube.com/gamesunderpressure and subscribe so I can change the damn name of the site. That will be awesome. But other than that, there's really not too much to say. Stay tuned. We have so much going on, and I might be tired and I need to go take a nap. But the Pressure Cast is forever. PressureCast, weekly video game news podcast, is solely owned and operated by Colin Tanner. Guests of the PressureCast are not employees or freelancers of Colin Tanner, the PressureCast, or VideoGamesAreDumb.com, and are not paid. Music featured on the PressureCast is property of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended. For more information, email pressurecast@gmail.com.